Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night. Happy Shochu'sday number 113 coming to you live from both Tokyo and Fukuoka, Japan. It's Christopher and Steven once again. To everybody out there everywhere, kanpai, what are you drinking? What's in your glass? Please let us know in the chat,
Pat.
either on Facebook or YouTube. Steven, how you doing?
Doing well. Been been a busy few days, but back in Fukuoka. I guess that's kind of what we're talking about. But and starting to plan travel back to the States, which I'm looking forward to. Have a
Yeah,
trip
yeah,
back planned. Haven't been since last year, August. So be good to be back, I guess.
yeah. Get the lay of the land and see how everybody's reacting to the evolving shochu and awamori picture over there. I don't know if we have any booze news. Um, I mean, we just keep coming back to the in-person events that are on the horizon. The July
Mhm.
23rd, 24th in Fukuoka. That's coming right up. What
Yep,
else is there?
very
Is there
soon.
anything else?
The I guess not specifically, other than well, I guess some Japanese spirits news is that uh, Yoichi 10 year is coming back. Yoichi's been a non-age stated whiskey from Nika for a while now. That's their original distillery up in Hokkaido, and what makes it unique is they still use coal-fired stills, and in order to try to offset the environmental effects, they built several $1 million basically carbon recapture system on the distillery so that they wouldn't adversely affect the local environment
Mm-hmm.
and filter out the air from the stills. But it's they still use coal fired stills, and you can taste it. Like it's a really complex whiskey relative to a lot of what comes out of Japan. Japan's known for kind of a light fruity style generally. And it's delicious. It's great in a highball. It's really easy drinking, and I think that's part of why people respond so well to Japanese whiskeys. But Yoichi was a very early kind of exception to that because Masataka Taketsuru was trying to make a very traditional Scotch, and
Yeah.
one of the ways he did that was using these coal powered stills, which still are still being run up there in Yoichi. So the 10 years
Wow.
coming back. I mean, among what Nika makes right now, the non-age stated or what's available right now, the non-age stated Yoichi is great. So I can only imagine what a few more years on it's going to be.
What was the volume of bottles that they're releasing this year? Do you remember? Was it like 10,000 in Japan or something?
I think that might be the worldwide
Was that the
volume.
total,
Let
the
me,
worldwide total? So
yeah, maybe.
not
Let
a
me
ton,
see.
but yeah, good news for whiskey
Yep.
fans, absolutely. Um, yeah,
Yeah, good.
just looking at a couple of. Sorry, while you're looking at that, this is
Sure.
this is nice to see. I had to pause episode 29 of the podcast to come watch again. What are we up to? Episode 34, 35?
30, 39. Yeah.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
Yeah, so uh, thank you for your consumption. And yeah, there's a couple of interesting ones recently. Stephen was talking about how we did get ahead of ourselves and release one early, so there may feel
Yeah.
like there's a little bit of a gap between 39 and 40. There is, but that
Yep.
doesn't mean there's fewer episodes going out this calendar
Yeah.
year. It's
Yeah.
just
We did consecutive weeks for 38 and 39. I kind of got excited about the new episode, and Rich was very efficient in his editing for that episode, so we
so
ended up
it
putting it
felt
out a
like
week
it needed
early.
to go out. Yeah, that's the tempo of those things.
It's a
Um,
nice companion, actually. The 38 was on all about Koji, and 39 was about the Toji Guild in Kagoshima, which is they were really masters of uh, handmade Koji production, and that's why it's a nice little kind of companion set. Um, but yeah, we'll have something new for you next week, I assume.
yeah,
So
if definitely if you like podcasts at all, go check it out. We actually Steven and I just got interviewed by a pretty. I'll be honest with you, I don't read it, but everybody I've asked about it is like, oh yeah, that's legit. A pretty famous magazine here in Japan related to Japan distilled. So we'll have more information about that once we get confirmation of when and the nature of what's going to run in the magazine. So especially for folks who live in Japan, they'll be able to check it out. I don't know if it really makes it over to the States that often, but
Yeah, I think
TBC
it's
there.
it is Japanese language only, but it appears in Japanese bookstores in the States, so you can
Okay.
find it occasionally. But we'll that's kind of a teaser. We'll let you know more. We were actually recommended by by a distiller that we've never met, which tells us that the podcast is starting to have some reach,
Yeah,
which is pretty exciting.
that's
So
nice.
yeah,
Yeah. So good. It was a good long discussion. So I think there's going to be plenty
yeah,
of content there. We got another comment from Mark over on YouTube. Are you stopping in Colorado this summer? It's not. I didn't see it in your itinerary. I don't think it's going to be in
yeah.
mine this time. It doesn't
My
mean it's
entire itinerary
impossible.
is entire itinerary is not finalized, but Colorado's probably not in the cards this time. Although it is one of my favorite states in the union, so I do hope to make it there in the
We
not too
will be
distant future.
there sooner rather than later. Absolutely. Well, let's move on to the main event to keep this clipping along. The main event being Shochu Rakuen event recap, as you can see at the bottom of the screen. And this was the first in-person Shochu Rakuen in quite a while. Maybe since, I
Mhm.
guess, 2019 would have been the previous one that was in person. And Stephen happened to be in town at that last weekend. It was a 2-day event, Saturday and
Mhm.
Sunday. We secured seats at the Sunday event, and it was pretty cool. What are your memories of it, if any? And what did you think were the positives?
Yeah, so just maybe to refresh people, these little bottles that Christopher and I have been very, very slowly sipping through are the 2021 Rakuen event, which was actually done completely online, where they
Yeah,
worked with a bunch of different distilleries and got these 300 ml bottles of basically just unicorns. Nothing that's bottled for this event was is something that they normally sell from these distilleries. So things that they had in storage, blends, different ways of creating something different.
right.
And we had intended to try one of these every week for the number of weeks it would take to run
30
out of them, and
something weeks.
we've uh, we've kind of stalled on that. And unfortunately, I don't think we're going to do one today either. But the the Rakuen event that they held in Tokyo last weekend was it was relatively limited. I mean, you had what, about 60 guests, I would say. No, probably more than that.
I don't
Maybe
know how many tables there were,
80,
but
maybe
how
80
many?
guests
One, two, three. I
around
don't.
that.
Well,
There were
maybe
fewer than 10
total.
people per table, right?
Not 10 people. There were at our table. There was one, two, three, four, five, six, seven guests.
Yep. Yeah, so the other tables probably similar size. Yeah, maybe 60 to 70 guests, I would say. And then there were 7 shochu makers. There were 8 tables. 8 times, let's say 8 times 8, 64. Is that right? I hope so.
Okay.
So, but there were 7 shochu makers there, and the way that it was set up was every 20 minutes, the shochu maker would move from one table to the next. They did a rotation, and so you
It was
could
speed
have a
dating.
drink and hear about the brand from each of or the distillery from each of the 7 shochu makers. And one table got a little bit of a break, and the organizer came and sat with you for that 20 minutes. And then they had it was at a shochu focused izakaya, but then they had guest chefs as well.
Yeah.
And so there were dishes that were brought out basically in the same cadence every 20
20
minutes. You had
minutes.
a new dish hitting the table, and the it was great. I mean, the food punched above its weight. It was much better than I expected. I'd actually had a late lunch, and I was like, it's like an event with some food. I thought it would be like walk around, finger foods or something like that, and it turned out to be like sit down, legit, really, really good food from amazing chefs.
Yep.
Fortunately, I got hungry toward the second half of it, so I could actually eat some of the delicious food. But it ended up being a really, really interesting event. One of the things that struck me about it was, other than the makers and the organizers, nobody was wearing a mask for the entire 3 hours except for Christopher and I. We would take a sip, we'd have a bite, we'd put our mask back on. We were very, very careful, and I kind of felt like the Japanese guests were all just kind of done, right? They're like, this is my drinking party. I'm gonna drink and not worry about the fact that BA5 variant is spiking in Tokyo this weekend.
Wave number 7, for
Yeah.
anybody who's counting. I didn't realize
Yeah.
there was a number on these things, but yeah, you're right. And the after party as well. It was much of this, more of the same, but it was. Yeah, I don't know. I haven't heard anything adverse yet. I suppose.
Yeah.
If there was something spreading, it should have hit by now. So who knows?
I came home and took a test, an antibody test, and tested negative. So I'm relatively confident that I'm all right. I mean, it's been now symptoms come within about 3-4 days, I think. And,
yeah, apparently this variant isn't quite as clever as some of the previous ones.
Yeah, so that was Sunday, and it's now Wednesday. So I'm relatively confident that I avoided it again. But there was what was really interesting as well. Christopher mentioned the after party. The after party we were thrilled to be invited to, because normally the after party for these kinds of events is the makers go out by themselves with the organizers and have a little bit of a well done, congratulations, let's relax party. And they ended up inviting us along, which I thought was very generous of them.
Absolutely.
And then at our table, actually, we sort of defined our table as the international table, because it was Christopher and I, and then a couple of people who work for J Foodle, right.
They
at least collaborate with, right?
Yeah.
And then also a bartending group, these master mixologists, and we were able to sit and hang out with them and share both the main Rakuen experience with them, and then they also attended the after party with us, and so we could get to know them a little bit.
Yeah, it was
Shochu'sday.
It was just our table that ended up going to the party and then the after party, pretty much.
That's right. And the bartender Shuzo-san was just really
Nagumo.
Yeah, really fun to talk to, and just is interesting to hear. He was, because I've known a lot of the Japanese bartenders who cut their teeth overseas, like Shingo Gokan and others in New York City or other parts of America, and I've known those guys, but they often learned how to bartend in the States, and they would apply Japanese technique and became students of the craft, but they really weren't trained overseas. He was trained in Japan, and so he has a little bit different mindset and then just a different concept to his bars, but really interesting conversation all around. He's very curious about using shochu.
Oh, he uses it all the time. Yeah, he's been using it for years, but yeah, he doesn't have his own lineup like Shingo does. But
right. But a lot of Japanese bars still don't carry it.
That's right.
Cocktail bars don't carry it because it's always supposed to have been a Western experience traditionally here in Japan to go to a cocktail bar. So he's one of the innovators on that front.
Definitely.
And actually, when I googled him afterward, there were a bunch of articles about him talking about how he uses shochu in his cocktails. So yeah, really, really interesting. But that was a fun event, high value. It's about 6,000 yen, so about $45 at current exchange rates for full course meal. And it was actually all you could drink shochu, and they had basically the entire set lined up on a counter. And if you wanted to try something that wasn't being served by the makers themselves, you could just go up and grab it off the counter and share it with your tables. So, and then of course they gave us all some bottles when we left. So
yeah, they did, didn't they? I was like, oh, I don't need more of those.
I ended up with yours.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, I remember that now. The makers that I recall speaking with, of course, Furusawa was there. Furusawa Jozo. So we got to support the Toji Masako Furusawa. Nakamura was there of Nakamura Shuzojo. Yano-san was there of Shoro Distillery. If you've had Colorful before, then you've tried one of his products. Goto Nara Distillery was there. Was Kubo there? Kubo was not there. I just remember seeing it and talking about it. We did sip it, but he wasn't there.
And Nishi was there.
Nishi was there. You're right.
And Tomita.
Tomita was there. That's right. The Kokuto Sugar Shochu. I think you can get Ryugu in California, but I'm not
Hmm.
sure you can get it further afield than that.
Yeah, unless you order it
Um,
from Mommy Mart, if they still
sure.
have any.
Other than that, I'm not. I mean, there would have been two or three other distilleries in there. I'm drawing a blank at the moment, but it was a good cross section of some of the
Hmm.
participants in Rakuen
Yeah.
2021. Like Steven said, all of the bottles are 30 whatever, 35, 30 something bottles were at everyone's beck and call. So it was a good time, and it was nice because the toji or the distillery head would come to the table and talk about how to serve it, how to enjoy it. You could ask
Hmm.
really easy questions, you could ask really nerdy questions. I think for the most part the people at the tables, the guests were all pretty knowledgeable about shochu. There were very
Hmm.
few. I don't think there were any newbies there.
Yeah.
Everybody at our table had visited at least a distillery at some point, so it was a pretty interesting crowd of people. Unfortunately, I think for me the thing that I would have liked to do was meet some of the other people at the other tables, because there were some people that I had planned to speak with, and then we just got ushered out, and then all of a sudden it was dispersal, and it's like,
Hmm. Hmm.
crap. I'm not. When's the next time I'm going to be in a room with that person?
Yep.
Answer is I have no idea. But
Sure.
otherwise, it
Sure.
was
Sure.
it
Sure.
was a lot of fun, and it was refreshing to kind of feel a little bit of normalcy, even if you and I were masked the entire time. And
Hmm.
I'm sure that if you look at all the photos and the videos from that event, it'll be like, why are the two gringos covered up? It's like
Yep. Yeah.
Zorro's here or something.
We were just trying to be responsible, and Um, but then the after party, actually, I think I was more lax. You were still pretty careful, but the after party just was a smaller group. It felt safer for some reason. And I actually realized that both parties, the main event and then the after party, I ended up underneath an air conditioner, which was blowing the air away from me. So
Yeah,
that
hopefully they
weirdly
cleaned
felt.
it.
Yeah, right.
um, well, so anyway, good things happening. To summarize, face to or in person events, hopefully are here to stay. Hopefully, there's not too much skittishness when these new variants come in, and people are responsible enough under ordinary circumstances here. So I think we can have some faith in that. Um, what's last new? Can we move on? Should we move on to the last one? We're getting to the 20-minute mark here, so we should probably move on to
Sure,
the
sure.
last third.
Yep.
Newly opened. I'll go first. I don't really have anything. I mean, how many times have I introduced this one? This is legitimately my most recently opened. I've opened another
Yep.
bottle of Junkuro as I do. It's kind of my faithful home sipper imojochu that's really good oyuwari, and the cost performance is great, and I can get it locally here. I can get it at Seijo Ishii, which is pretty cool. It's actually that's an upscale market. I mean, I think if
Hmm.
you talk to somebody from Kagoshima and you say I get it at this really expensive international supermarket, they'd be like, "Wait, Junkuro?" Because it's not
Yeah.
it's not really of that ilk. It's not
Hmm.
maybe back home, this is a living room sipper for a lot of folks. It's not one of
Hmm.
those things that's really rare, and you go to a special izakaya to find. It's kind of omnipresent, but it's pretty rare up here, and I like it. So I'm
Yes.
happy to pay for it when I find it, and I did that again.
Sadly hard to find here in Fukuoka. I haven't found a reliable source for it, so still working
It's
on
a
that.
weird one. It just kind of
It is.
just kind of Kagoshima, and then if somebody in the Seijo Ishii realm must have been like, I like that one. Let's get that. Let's put it in the catalog. And some places have it. So that's my recently opened. Do you have a recently opened or
Yes.
a
I
bottle
I
kill?
do. Yeah, no, I actually opened this last night as I was I in a conversation I was having with a friend of ours earlier last night. I had a sudden craving for barrel aged kokuto, and I happened to
Oh,
have
okay. The winner.
a small bottle of
One of the winners.
Benisango, who did take best in show at a recent Tokyo whiskey and shochu competition. And it's great. It's got cherry. It's got all of the kokuto character you'd expect, the vanilla from the oak. Not aged long. I think it's about 2 years in a cask, but 40% alcohol. Made a nice little nightcap. So yeah, Benisango recommended if you can find it. I remember being a mule to bring Benisango back to New York City for the folks at Uminoye, the Goto Izakaya, when they were still in existence. The staff loved it, so I would often carry bottles of Benisango back for them to have something that they enjoyed. And yeah, it's a good one. It's actually from the maker of
that one went the way of the dodo, but yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, pour one out for Uminoye.
And all the other beautiful places that we've lost over the last couple of years. Yeah, well, cool. Good. 20 minutes. We're getting better at this. Hopefully, for everyone who is watching now and anyone who tunes in later, you know, hit us up, reach out to us if you have ideas or if you have things you want to hear us talk about. Maybe you even have people that you think we should interview. We'd be happy to hear that. Something we don't normally do is talk about how you can reach us, and maybe we should do that real quick since we have a little bit of time. Where can people find you online, Stephen?
Yeah, easiest for me is at Japan Distilled on Twitter or Instagram. I am more active on Twitter, so that's probably
the fastest way.
The fastest way. I will see messages through Instagram. I do not use Facebook often, so I don't recommend Facebook as a way of contacting me, especially if it's time sensitive. I've missed any number of people who were coming through Fukuoka because they reached out through Messenger, and I saw the messages a week or two late, so not recommended. How about you, Christopher?
Some version of my name on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. I understand that I need to figure out TikTok, but please give me some more time. However, if anybody out there expects me to do a good job on TikTok and like actually create amazing content, I can't even do that on the other platform. So sorry, it's not going to happen. Yeah, we're easy to start conversations with, so please try if you are so inclined. We got one final question here from Maya. She's like, "What about the rest of your shochu bottles from Rakuen?" We will try to get to them little by little. We haven't given up on them. They're still there. Yeah. I still have the boxes stacked right there behind me.
I've got them right here on the floor as well. So yeah,
we'll get to one hopefully next week.
In the works.
Yep,
that's right.
All right, folks. Thank you very much once again for joining us, and we'll be back in 7 days' time for episode 114. I'm not sure what the topic is going to be yet. Stephen and I will discuss. But as always,
I'd like to propose one.
Okay, go ahead.
Because there's a bottle over your shoulder I see, and I've got one here. I'm actually later this week. I'll actually be down.
Kanpai.
Tensei, not Tenpai. Tensei. Making mugi hoka with the team, learning how they make Baisen mugi shochu, which I've never done. So looking forward to that little road trip. So I think we'll talk about that next week. Hopefully I have some pictures or videos to share, that sort of thing, of the experience.
Absolutely. Okay, well that's what it is. Next week is all about mugi hoka. If you're in the States, please go get a bottle. If you're in Japan, good luck finding a bottle. They're really hard to get. You probably have to go online to get one because I don't know which shops carry it, but online I've been able to purchase it before. Anyway, good luck, and that's the topic for next week. Thank you, Stephen. Thank you everybody out there for tuning in, and we'll be back again soon. From both of us here in Japan, it's Wednesday morning. To all of you everywhere around the world, a very hearty and heartfelt kanpai.
Kanpai.